Conservative Karol Nawrocki has won Poland's presidential election, according to the final vote count.
6 people were injured in what the FBI immediately described as a targeted terror attack in Boulder, Colorado.
Conservative Karol Nawrocki has won Poland's presidential runoff election, according to Monday's final vote count. Nawrocki won 50.89% of the vote, narrowly defeating Liberal Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski, who received 49.11%, in a tightly contested race which saw both candidates claim victory after early exit polls on Sunday night. Under Nawrocki, who is backed by US President Donald Trump, Poland is likely to move in a more nationalist direction, a vision he outlined during his speech to supporters over the weekend.
Udało nam się zjednoczyć cały obóz patriotyczny w Polsce, cały obóz ludzi, którzy chcą Polski normalnej, chcą Polski bez nielegalnych migrantów, Polski bezpiecznej.
Nawrocki's victory is a significant setback for the coalition government led by Donald Tusk and is likely to extend the ongoing political deadlock in Poland. Following Sunday's major assault on Russian airfields that destroyed 40 aircraft, Ukrainian forces are continuing to ramp up their counter-offensive against Moscow. Russia claims to have intercepted 162 drones in a massive overnight attack across its territory, with explosions reported in at least 6 regions. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Air Force says Russia launched 472 drones and 7 missiles into Ukraine on Sunday, in what it called the largest drone assault since the full-scale invasion began in February 2022. Their military also said at least 12 Ukrainian service members were killed and more than 60 injured in a Russian missile strike on an army training unit. The ramped-up exchanges of fire come ahead of direct peace talks between the two nations in Istanbul on Monday. Zelensky has outlined key demands, such as a complete and unconditional ceasefire, the release of prisoners, and the return of abducted children.
Six people were injured in what the FBI immediately described as a targeted terror attack, after demonstrators gathered in Boulder, Colorado to call for the release of hostages in Gaza. The 45-year-old suspect yelled "Free Palestine" and used a makeshift flamethrower in the attack, according to local authorities. He was taken into custody following the incident. The FBI said they were investigating the attack as an act of terrorism, and the Justice Department decried it as a needless act of violence. It comes just over a week after a man was arrested in the fatal shooting of 2 Israeli embassy staffers and shouted "Free Palestine" as he was being led away by police. With taped mouths, a silent march was held in Budapest against the transparency draft law, which is expected to be adopted in mid-June. These kinds of protests have been held in 17 Hungarian cities over the last week and a half. In complete silence, participants demonstrate against the impact of the law, which they say is aimed at silencing any critical voices, media and NGOs.
A mi munkánk nem felforgatás, hanem építés. Nem támadás, hanem védelem, nem árulás, hanem szolgálat.
A kormány szerint veszélyes, hogy felszólalok azokért, akiket nem hallanak meg. Hogy azért dolgozom, hogy Magyarországon mindenki egészséges környezetben éljen.
Nem érdekli őket, ők máson dolgoznak. Ők azon dolgoznak, hogy itt mindenkit ellehetetlenítsenek. Ez a hatalmi arrogancia, itt sok ezer milliárd forintot meg kell védeni, bármilyen áron. Szerintem erről van szó.
Ilyenkor egy kicsit a saját reményünket se veszítjük el, hanem egy kicsit megerősítjük. Úgyhogy ha nem is kifejezetten olyan következménye van, hogy akkor azonnal az ilyen rendeleteket kellőképpen módosítják, de hogy így egymásban egy kicsit megerősítjük, hogy megéri még kitartani.
At the end of the protests, activists placed a large tableau with the portraits of government politicians at Hotel Galère. The building under renovation had been bought by Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's son-in-law.
At least 31 people have been killed and another 175 wounded as they were on their way to receive food in Gaza, according to health officials and a Red Cross field hospital. Witnesses said Israeli forces fired on crowds around 1 kilometre from an aid distribution site run by the controversial Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The organisation said in a statement that it had, quote, delivered aid without incident and has denied reports of deaths, mass injuries and chaos. Israel and the United States say the new system is aimed at preventing Hamas from siphoning off assistance, but UN agencies and major aid groups have refused to work with the new system, saying it violates humanitarian principles because it allows Israel to control who receives aid and forces people to relocate to distribution sites, risking further mass displacement. Greta Thunberg and 11 other activists have set sail for Gaza on a ship aimed at delivering humanitarian aid to the territory. The boat is operated by the activist group Freedom Flotilla Coalition, who said they are trying to raise international awareness over the ongoing humanitarian crisis in the Strip.
And we are doing this because no matter what odds we are against, we have to keep trying. Because the moment we stop trying is when we lose our humanity. And no matter how dangerous this mission is, it is nowhere near as dangerous as the silence of the entire world in the face of a live-stream genocide.
Irish actor Liam Cunningham is also among the crew of the Madeleine. The group expects to take 7 days to reach their destination if they are not stopped.
French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed the Paris Saint-Germain football team to the presidential palace to celebrate their historic Champions League win. Before meeting with Macron, PSG were paraded through the streets of Paris in an open-roof coach bus. The team beat Italian side Inter Milan 5-0 in the tournament's final the day prior in Munich. It was the first time PSG ever won the title, having come up short in their only previous final against Bayern Munich in 2020. French authorities say 2 people died and hundreds were arrested after celebrations erupted around the country following the team's win. As he welcomed the team to the Élysée Palace, Macron condemned the unacceptable violence which had occurred the day before.
NATO defence ministers are meeting in Brussels this week, where the alliance's capability targets, essentially NATO's overall strength and readiness for war, is high on the agenda. Meanwhile, closer to the Ukrainian battlefield, a NATO exercise involving 26,000 multinational troops using all NATO forces structures in a 3-week scenario, simulating a full response from NATO to a potential invasion by Russia. Baltic soldiers recalled their recent history under Soviet occupation and what they say is the importance now of being part of NATO.
We definitely were not ready to defend ourselves when the Soviet Union collapsed. We had the people, we had the willingness, but we didn't have training and we didn't have the equipment, and all that has completely changed now.
Do you remember what it was like to live under Soviet occupation?
Luckily we do, and that's why we want to make sure that nothing like that returns.
Overall, the training includes a wide gamut of military capabilities, including tanks, howitzers, attack helicopters, drones, live fire drills and fully functional field hospitals.
Trench warfare is a key characteristic of the war in Ukraine, and these trenches were built by hand, taking around 2 to 3 hours. The idea here is, of course, replicating what it might be like in the event of war where NATO soldiers were required to defend Estonia.
So we're in an MDA at the moment, which stands for Main Defensive Area. So basically we're tasked with defending the ground you can see behind us, basically stopping any movement north of that ground and repelling any attacks.
We've got a few trenches out at the front as well, which is where we'll live and fight out of. So if enemy attacks come towards us, then that's where our main defensive area will be.
Well, this is an exercise with Lithuanian and German soldiers using German tanks, both the Leopard and the Puma. We know that Germany sent the Leopard tanks to support Ukraine. It's also got Lithuanian infantry fighting vehicles. Is the readiness there in the event of an armed conflict or an invasion on NATO territory in the next year or so?
The capability to rapidly move into these locations are always here. The 173rd is postured in Italy and ready to go at a moment's notice. The 82nd in the rear is also always on guard and on watch, prepared to deploy, engage, and destroy in less than 24 hours.
While the evolution of drone technology dominates in the war in Ukraine, traditional battlefield techniques are still regarded as relevant, whether tanks or paratroopers replicating the wars of the last century. 150 paratroopers from 5 NATO countries, Germany, the United States, France, Italy and the Netherlands will come here and in theory be here to reinforce Lithuanian soldiers in the event of an invasion. With ongoing Russian aggression in Ukraine and growing concerns about hybrid threats, ranging from cyber attacks to disinformation campaigns, NATO says it's always recalibrating its strategy to respond rapidly to all emerging crises. Shona Murray, Kaunas, Lithuania.